I never expected that a simple decision at work would spiral into the biggest nightmare of my life. It all started with a theft my assistant stole from me. At least, that's what I thought. The moment I discovered the missing files and the unexplained expenses, I was furious. How could someone I trusted so much betray me like this? Without a second thought, I fired him. No warnings, no second chances. Just cold, harsh justice. But 2 weeks later, everything I believed about that day, about him, and about my own life crumbled. I found out the man I had let go wasn't just some petty thief or careless employee. He was my boss's son. At first, I couldn't breathe. My mind raced with 1,000 questions. Why hadn't anyone told me? How deep did this secret go? Was my boss protecting his son? Or worse, was there something darker behind it all? I kept replaying our interactions, trying to find signs I had missed. That nervous glance when I asked about the missing files. The subtle way he always seemed to avoid the topic of his family. The sudden urgency in his messages the day before I fired him. Everything felt like a lie. I realized then how fragile trust really is. One wrong move, one hidden truth, and everything you hold dear can be torn apart. But the worst part? The betrayal wasn't just about stolen money or broken trust. It was about realizing that the people we think have our back can be the ones stabbing us in it. That night, I sat alone in my dark apartment, the city lights flickering outside like distant stars I couldn't reach. My phone buzzed with messages I didn't want to read, messages from him, from my boss, from people I thought I knew. Each one was a thread pulling me deeper into a web I never asked to enter. How could this be my life now? How did a simple mistake become a secret that threatened to destroy my career, my relationships, and maybe even my sanity? I had no idea then what I was about to uncover. No clue how far this story would go, or how much pain it would bring. But one thing was clear after that day: nothing would ever be the same again. For as long as I can remember, I've been the kind of person who believes in hard work and honesty. Growing up, my parents drilled those values into me like a mantra. Trust is earned. Never let anyone take advantage of your kindness. I carried that with me into every job, every friendship, every relationship. I'm Maya, 29 years old, working as a project manager at a rising tech startup in the city. When I joined the company 2 years ago, I was thrilled finally. A place where I could prove myself. A place where my ideas mattered. And I wasn't wrong. Things were going well. My boss, Mr. Harrison, was a tough but fair man, someone I respect deeply. He had built the company from scratch and had high expectations. I admired that. But the most important person in my work life was my assistant, Ryan. When Ryan came on board, I thought I'd found the perfect right hand. He was efficient, polite, and seemed genuinely invested in the company's success. At least, that's what I thought. Ryan and I worked closely every day. I'd send him emails with tasks, and he'd deliver results, sometimes even before I asked. We joked, shared lunch breaks, and occasionally talked about our lives outside work. Slowly, a comfortable rhythm settled between us. Ryan was different from anyone I'd worked with before. Young, sharp, a bit mysterious. He didn't talk much about his personal life, which I thought was normal. After all, everyone has their boundaries. But sometimes, I noticed fleeting moments when his smile would falter or his eyes would drift away when someone mentioned family. I never pushed curiosity as a dangerous thing when it comes to people's secrets. Our friendship grew quietly, and I began to trust him more than I should have. I even recommended him for a raise when he brought in a new client unexpectedly. He deserved it, or so I believed. But the truth is, Ryan was always a little too good to be true. Outside work, my life was simple but fulfilling. I had a close circle of friends who felt like family, and my weekends were spent exploring new coffee shops, hiking trails, or curling up with a book. I wasn't looking for drama, nor was I expecting betrayal. But life, as it turns out, has a way of surprising you when you least expect it. The dynamic between Ryan and me was more than just boss. An assistant tit was like a fragile partnership, built on what I thought was mutual respect and honesty. I shared my stresses with him, my victories, even the small frustrations. Sometimes, I caught myself wondering if he truly cared about the company or if he had his own agenda. But every time I doubted, he reassured me with his calm voice or a simple gesture like bringing me coffee just the way I liked it. Ryan had this way of making you feel important, like you were the only person who mattered in that moment. It was easy to forget that underneath that charm, there was a side of him no one really knew. I often wondered about his family. Once I asked him casually about his parents. He just smiled and changed the subject. "It's complicated," he said. That was his favorite excuse whenever the topic came up. Meanwhile, my relationship with Mr. Harrison, my boss, was strictly professional but respectful. He rarely got involved in day-to-day tasks but was always a looming presence in the background. I never thought there was any connection between Ryan and Mr. Harrison beyond the work hierarchy. I couldn't have been more wrong. In my mind, Ryan was just a dedicated employee who happened to be a bit secretive. Nothing more. Until the day everything changed. It started with a simple email notification. I was working late one evening, the office dim except for the glow of my laptop screen. Ryan had already left hours ago, or so I thought. Then, his phone buzzed on my desk. I hadn't meant to pick it up, but curiosity got the better of me. The screen lit up with a message that made my heart freeze. "Tell her to keep quiet. Dad can't find out." I blinked, staring at the words, my mind racing. What did that mean? Who was her? And why would Ryan tell someone to keep quiet? I quickly locked the phone and shoved it into my drawer, trying to convince myself it was nothing. Maybe a prank. Maybe a mistake. But the doubt had already taken root. Over the next few days, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Ryan's usual warmth turned cold, his usual quick responses slowed to curt, clipped replies. He avoided eye contact. One afternoon, I caught him glancing nervously toward the CEO's office whenever my boss walked by. That night, I decided to stay late again, hoping to catch a glimpse of what was really going on. Around 9 p.m., I heard footsteps outside the office. It was Ryan. But instead of heading home, he paused near the conference room, pulled out his phone, and sent a quick message. Then, he glanced around as if afraid someone was watching. I felt like I was spying, but I couldn't stop myself. I grabbed my coat and followed him quietly down the hall. Ryan took the elevator down to the parking garage. I kept my distance but stayed close. Then, to my shock, he climbed into a sleek black car, one I recognized instantly. It was Mr. Harrison's car. My mind reeled. Why was Ryan driving my boss's car? And why had no one told me that Ryan was connected to him at all? As I watched from the shadows, Ryan's phone buzzed again. This time, the message was shorter but even more alarming. "Make sure she never finds out." Who's she? I whispered to myself, heart pounding. I knew I had to find answers, but I was terrified of what I might discover. The next morning, I tried to act normal. I greeted Ryan with a tentative smile, but he barely looked at me. My boss called me into his office for an unexpected meeting, and I noticed a subtle tension in the air. "Ryan's been handling some sensitive matters," Mr. Harrison said vaguely, eyes not meeting mine. That only deepened the mystery. Later that week, I found myself standing outside a fancy cafe where Ryan often went after work. I watched as he met a woman I didn't know. They spoke in hushed tones, their expressions serious, almost urgent. When their eyes met mine across the street, Ryan's face flickered with something I couldn't quite place. Fear? Guilt? Or was it a warning? I left before he could see me fully, heart heavy with questions but no answers. Was Ryan protecting someone? Was my boss involved in something I wasn't meant to know? The deeper I dug, the more tangled the web became. And every secret I uncovered only pulled me further into a world of lies, betrayal, and danger I never imagined I'd face. I wanted to confront Ryan, to demand the truth, but fear held me back. What if I was wrong? What if I was imagining things? But the messages, the secret meetings, the stolen moments, they were real. And I was running out of time. After that night following Ryan, everything inside me twisted into knots. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't stop replaying the moments I'd witnessed. The messages, the secret meetings, the strange glances, they haunted me. Was I overreacting? Was my mind twisting innocent things into a conspiracy? Maybe Ryan was just hiding something personal, something painful he wasn't ready to share. Or maybe I had misread the signs. But then the messages. Tell her to keep quiet. Make sure she never finds out. Who was she? Why was I being kept in the dark? I sat on my couch, staring at my phone, heart pounding. Should I confront him? I imagined the conversation. Ryan, what's going on? Why are you hiding things from me? Would he break down and confess? Or would he deny everything, making me look paranoid? I swallowed hard and typed a message. Can we talk? It's important. No reply. Hours passed. My mind raced, spinning stories, imagining betrayals worse than I could bear. Was Ryan stealing from the company to protect someone? Was my boss involved? The next day I saw Ryan at the office but avoided his eyes. When he passed by, I caught a flicker of something in his face. Was it guilt? Fear? Or was it just relief that I hadn't confronted him yet? I confided in my closest friend Sarah over coffee. I don't know what to do, I said, voice barely above a whisper. I'm scared, Sarah. I keep thinking maybe I'm imagining things, but the evidence is there. Sarah reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Trust your instincts, Maya. If something feels off, it probably is. But what if I'm wrong? What if I ruin everything? What if Ryan's innocent? She shook her head gently. You deserve the truth, and you need to find it before it's too late. Back at home, I replayed every interaction with Ryan. The way he avoided talking about his family. The mysterious calls. The stolen glances. I remembered a time when I'd asked him about his father. He said, I don't really talk about him. At the time, I thought it was just a family issue. Now, it felt like a warning I didn't heed. Late that night, I sat in front of my laptop, drafting a message I never sent. Ryan, I know something's going on. Please, just be honest with me. But honesty seemed like a luxury I couldn't afford. Days dragged on, the silence between us growing heavier. My mind was a battlefield, hope fighting against fear, trust battling betrayal. One evening, I found myself outside Mr. Harrison's office, overhearing a heated conversation between him and Ryan. I told you to keep this quiet, Mr. Harrison hissed. Ryan's voice was low but firm. I'm doing what I can, but she's asking questions now. My heart stopped. They were talking about me. I ducked away before they noticed, trembling. Was I just a pawn in their game? That night, I stared at the ceiling, tears blurring my vision. Who can I trust? I whispered to the darkness. The weight of the secret was crushing me, and I knew one thing for sure: he couldn't stay silent forever. But confronting the truth might cost me everything. The next day, I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to know more. If Ryan and my boss were hiding something so desperately, I had to find out what it was, no matter the cost. So, I made a decision. I followed him. It was risky, reckless even, but the fear of remaining in the dark was worse. Ryan left the office around 6 p.m., just like always. I kept my distance as he walked briskly through the city streets, glancing over his shoulder every few minutes, as if he sensed someone was trailing him. He didn't head home. Instead, he took a taxi to an upscale neighborhood I barely knew, one where mansions hid behind iron gates and secrets lurked in shadows. Ryan got out of the taxi and walked up the driveway of a huge house. My heart pounded in my chest. I took a deep breath and circled to the front door, watching from behind a tall hedge. Then, the door opened. And standing there was my boss, Mr. Harrison. But he wasn't alone. Next to him stood Ryan, and behind them, a woman I had never seen before. She looked familiar, though like a ghost from the past I couldn't quite place. The three of them spoke in hushed tones, but the tension in the air was palpable. Suddenly, Ryan's phone buzzed again. He glanced at it nervously, then showed the screen to Mr. Harrison. I couldn't hear what they said, but the look on my boss's face was enough to freeze me in place. It was a mixture of fear, anger, and something deeper, something like regret. Then, the woman spoke. Her voice was low, urgent. "If this gets out, it'll ruin everything. You know what's at stake." Ryan nodded. "I know, but she's asking questions. She won't stop." "Then we handle it," Mr. Harrison said coldly. My blood ran cold. I realized then this wasn't just about stolen files or hidden messages. It was something bigger, something dangerous. I wanted to run, to forget what I'd seen. But I couldn't. As I turned to leave, a sudden noise startled me, a twig snapping beneath my foot. All three heads snapped toward me. "Who's there?" Mr. Harrison's voice was sharp, commanding. Panic surged through me. I ran, heart hammering, weaving through the shadows until I was safely back on the main street. But that glimpse had changed everything. That night, I sat alone, trembling. Who was that woman? What secret were they protecting? And why was my boss so willing to do whatever it took to keep me silent? The trust I'd once had in my workplace, in the people around me, it was shattered. I realized then that the betrayal wasn't just personal. It was a dangerous game I'd been dragged into without even knowing it. And I wasn't sure I'd come out of it unscathed. I knew I couldn't stay silent any longer. The lies, the secrecy, the dangerous shadows hanging over my life, they had to be confronted. But I never imagined how shattering the truth would be. It was late afternoon when I finally called Ryan into the empty conference room. My hands trembled as I locked the door behind us. "Ryan, I know everything," I said, voice shaking but determined. His eyes widened, flickering with something I couldn't read. Fear? Guilt? Defiance? "You don't know anything," he said quietly, but there was a crack in his calm facade. "I followed you yesterday. I saw you with Mr. Harrison and that woman." He swallowed hard. "How much do you know? Enough to know you've been lying. About your family, about your connection to my boss." Ryan's face crumpled. "I wanted to tell you. Then why didn't you?" I demanded, tears stinging my eyes. He looked away. "Because it's complicated, and because if the truth got out, it could ruin everything." "Ruin what? Your job? My trust?" He stepped closer, voice low. "It's not just about the company. It's about a secret that's been buried for years." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "What secret?" Ryan took a deep breath, his hands shaking. "Mr. Harrison, he's my father." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. "You're kidding." "No." He nodded. "I'm his son." But he never told anyone, not even the board. I was hired here because of him, but he wanted to keep it quiet for reasons I still don't fully understand. I stared at him, disbelief and betrayal swirling inside me. "And the woman you were with?" I asked, voice barely a whisper. "That's my mother," Ryan said. "She and my father have a complicated history. She's been trying to protect me from something dangerous." My mind spun. Everything made sense and nothing did at all. "You should have told me." I wanted to, but Mr. Harrison warned me. If anyone found out, it could destroy the company and my life. I shook my head, overwhelmed. "So you lied. To me. To everyone." Ryan's eyes filled with tears. "I never wanted to hurt you." Just then, the door slammed open. Mr. Harrison stood there, his face a mask of anger and exhaustion. "Maya," he said coldly, "you've crossed the line." I turned to him, fury burning through me. "No, you did. You lied to me, to the whole team. You hid your own son in the company and kept us all in the dark." He took a step forward. "I did what I had to do. There are things you don't understand. Try me," I said, voice steady despite the storm inside. He sighed, rubbing his face. "Years ago, there was a scandal, something that could have ruined the company before it even began. Ryan's mother was involved, and I promised to protect her and our son. By hiding the truth, by lying to your employees." He looked away. It was the only way. I felt my world shatter completely. "You chose lies over trust," I said. "Over me." Ryan stepped beside me. We both made mistakes. Mr. Harrison's gaze softened just for a moment. "I never wanted to hurt anyone. But you did," I whispered. The room was heavy with unspoken pain. Then, Ryan looked at me with tears in his eyes. I understand if you hate me. I shook my head slowly. I don't hate you, but I don't know if I can ever fully trust you again. He nodded. I'll spend every day trying to earn that back. As I left the conference room, the weight of betrayal still pressing down on me, I realized something sometimes. The people closest to us hold the deepest secrets. And sometimes, those secrets change everything.